Have you ever met a woman, not the kind who stands out in a crowd, not loud, not trying to draw attention, yet you simply can't look away? There's something about her, a quiet depth that leaves you both illuminated and unsettled. It's not because she's beautiful. It's not because she says profound things. It's because it feels as if she sees right through you and she does not judge. Jung called this phenomenon the emergence of the self, when the truest, deepest essence of one's being rises into awareness. Women like this don't simply become by accident. They have walked through darkness, faced the rejected parts of themselves. They are not products of the modern world, but living embodiments of ancient archetypes reborn in this technological age. The cosmic mother, the silent priestess, the dark warrior, the soul lover. In a world where surface image is power, these women move with a completely different kind of energy. A primordial energy you only recognize when standing before an ancient waterfall or stepping into an abandoned cathedral and feeling your heart suddenly go still. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." These women, the ones who carry a deep spiritual power, are those who chose to walk into the darkness rather than run from it. They do not need to say, "I am strong." Their presence alone is an unspoken declaration. Have you ever wondered if you or someone you once knew might carry such power? If you are reading this, perhaps your soul already knows something. A calling, a memory too old for words, a subtle knowing that something within you has yet to awaken. In this video, we will explore 6 quiet but profound signs, the invisible marks of a woman with true spiritual power, rooted in the deep principles of Carl Jung's thought. Not to label others, not to glorify the self, but to ask gently, is your soul beginning to stir? And with each sign, you'll be invited to look inward, as though gazing into deep water, where a reflection waits for you, not of your face, but of your soul watching, waiting for you to begin the journey. Are you ready? We begin with the first sign, the place where every true spiritual path begins, the encounter with the shadow. The forgotten parts of yourself. She has met her shadow. Have you ever felt something heavy stirring within you? Something unnamed, vague, and dark? A fleeting emotion, jealousy, guilt, shame, inadequacy, that you quickly push aside as if ignoring it will make it disappear. Carl Jung called it the shadow, not evil, but simply the parts of you that have been rejected, denied, or buried in order to be accepted by others. But the truth is, what is buried does not vanish. It waits, patiently. And then it erupts through inexplicable anger, words that wound the ones we love, or a sudden emptiness in a room full of laughter. A spiritually powerful woman is one who has met her shadow and did not run away. Jung wrote, to confront a person with their shadow is to show them their own light. And it is in that darkness that true light begins. Such women rarely tell you the depths they've fallen into, but you can feel it in their calmness, in a humility so grounded it needs no explanation. They've touched bottom, and instead of building walls, they planted flowers in the cracks. They have known resentment, jealousy. They've compared themselves to the idealized versions of women society praises. But one day they stopped running. They turned inward and asked, if this is a part of me, why do I hate it so much? Imagine a woman after the collapse of what she thought was her forever relationship, suddenly realizing that her fear of abandonment wasn't about her ex. It was the voice of the child she once was left by her mother on a park bench. And instead of blaming the world, she returned inward. And there, where darkness once ruled, she lit a candle. That is when true spiritual power begins to root. No one becomes truly noble without having faced the most unworthy parts of themselves. Jung described the shadow not as something to destroy, but as essential to the process of individuation. A spiritually deep woman doesn't reject her fear, rage, hatred, or selfishness. She observes them, listens to them, and asks why they're there. She doesn't let the shadow take over, nor does she banish it to the dungeon. She chooses to lead it like a mother guiding a lost child back home. She learns to discern between true emotion and unconscious reaction. When she feels anger, she asks, who in me is angry? Is it the wounded child or the grown woman setting a boundary? When she feels jealousy, she doesn't feel ashamed. She smiles, an unhealed part of me is speaking. You see, real strength doesn't come from perfection. It comes from honesty with the most imperfect parts of yourself. And you know what's strange? The moment a woman touches her own shadow, she begins to recognize it in others and forgives. She no longer judges others for their pettiness, selfishness, or fakery, because she knows all of it comes from shadows unloved. If you've ever felt ashamed of a part of yourself, don't push it away. Try asking it, what do you need? Where did you come from? You might be surprised by the answer. A spiritually awakened woman does not practice toxic positivity. She doesn't fake being okay while breaking inside. She accepts the breaking and lets it rebirth her from within. She may be quiet in loud conversations, not from shyness, but because she's listening to the whispers of her shadow. If you have ever faced a dark part of yourself, you are not alone. Share it in the comments. You don't have to tell your whole story, just a simple sentence: I am learning to embrace my shadow. In doing so, you don't just connect with me, you connect with every soul on this path. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the light for someone still lost in themselves. In the next part, we'll explore another profound sign. She possesses a mature animus. When a woman has developed her inner masculine, not as a tyrant, but as an ally. She knows how to rise, to decide, to protect her boundaries while staying soft, compassionate, and whole. You'll see a truly spiritually powerful woman isn't just self-aware. She knows how to use reason to guard her heart. Let's continue the journey. She possesses a mature animus. Have you ever known a woman whose words hit with pinpoint accuracy like arrows that never miss but carried warmth instead of cold? A woman who doesn't need to raise her voice to be heard because the clarity in her mind silences the room. This is the second sign of a woman with deep spiritual power. She possesses a mature animus. In Carl Jung's symbolic framework, the animus is the masculine archetype within a woman's psyche, just as the anima is the feminine within a man. When undeveloped, the animus shows up as a chorus of inner voices, whispering things like, "You're not good enough. Don't be so weak. No one really needs you." But when faced, befriended, and integrated, the animus transforms into an inner mentor, rational-wise, discerning, yet in service of the soul's wholeness and feminine integrity. A woman with a mature animus is not ruled by fleeting emotions, but she does not suppress them either. She listens. Then she chooses her response consciously, not reactively. She can love deeply without losing herself. She can confront without waging war. She can protect her boundaries without apologizing for existing. She knows how to ask, what is true for me? Am I doing this out of fear or out of love? Does this choice nourish my soul or pull me away from who I truly am? This is the key difference between a chaotic animus and a matured one. A woman possessed by a chaotic animus often wrestles with ambition, competitiveness, or the urge to constantly prove her worth. But a woman who has healed her relationship with the animus no longer needs to compete with men because she knows exactly who she is. Jung once wrote, if a woman does not become conscious of her animus, she becomes possessed by it. Have you ever seen a woman stuck in a toxic relationship because she doesn't trust her own decisions? Or one who measures her worth through the eyes of others because she lacks a strong, honest inner voice to anchor her? A mature animus is the inner strength that keeps a woman from drifting in a sea of expectations and norms. But to develop the animus, a woman must learn to dialogue with her inner world and be willing to walk through loneliness, rejection, and even failure. She learns to make decisions not to please others, but to remain loyal to herself. She begins to build a life not based on what others accept, but on what truly holds meaning. Remember, the animus is not the enemy. It is a warrior, and when trained with integrity, it becomes a devoted guardian of her sacred femininity. A woman with a mature animus can lead without domination. She can say no without fearing the loss of love. She can be alone without feeling lonely. She doesn't reject softness, but she doesn't let it be exploited either. She can be both lover and commander, both mother and warrior, both dreamy artist and decisive entrepreneur. Wholeness doesn't come from choosing a side, it comes from embracing both. If you're on a journey to heal your relationship with your inner logic, or if you've ever struggled between being too soft or too strong, share a moment below, even just a sentence: I'm learning to trust myself more. Don't hold back. There are many women who need to hear your words to know they're not alone. When you write it, you're not just connecting with our community. You're beginning a relationship with your own animus. And if you've ever felt, I have to be the man in my own life, but I still long to be tender, to be loved, to be vulnerable without being dismissed, know this: you are not wrong. You are awakening. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the third sign, something that sets spiritually powerful women apart. She walks the path of individuation, no longer shaped by others, no longer living to please the world, but living to become her one unrepeatable self. Are you living as a copy or becoming fully authentically you? Let's explore that next as we arrive at the heart of the Jungian path, the return to your truest and deepest self. She walks the path of individuation. There comes a moment that each of us will face, a moment when you look in the mirror and no longer recognize yourself. Not because of a new hairstyle or a few more wrinkles, but because suddenly you realize your life, though seemingly complete, feels empty. You may have a stable job, a dream family, friends who adore you, but deep inside, a quiet voice whispers, "This isn't me." This is when the journey of individuation begins. Carl Jung believed that no one can live fully without becoming their true self, the deepest self, not the persona imposed by society. A woman with high spiritual power does not live as a copy, she lives as an archetype that has never appeared twice. This journey is not easy. To become her true being, she must shed layer after layer of masks, the roles imposed by society, family, and even herself. She may have once been the obedient daughter, the ideal girlfriend, the gentle teacher, the devoted mother. But one day, looking deeply into the mirror, she asks, "If I let go of all these roles, what remains?" And in that vast emptiness, she begins to hear the call of her soul. Individuation is not rebellion, it is a return. A return to the parts of herself she once lost. Childhood passions, long suppressed. Curiosity about life, once labeled pointless. Desire for freedom, once called selfish. A woman on the path of individuation does not abandon her family or the outer world. She learns to rearrange them according to a new order where the self sits at the center. She begins to listen to her dreams, not for entertainment, but for messages from the unconscious. She walks alone in the forest, not to escape, but to connect with something older than words. She journals not to boast, but to hear clearly the voices within. Jung said, "Those who do not look within live by fate. Those who look within begin the journey." And this journey is not a straight line. It is a spiral, each step a step back to herself. She will feel lost. She will be misunderstood. She will doubt herself at times. But step by step, she feels freedom. Not the freedom outside, but the inner freedom to be herself without asking anyone's permission. There was a time when she could not define herself by career, relationship, or status. She did not know who she was, and in that not knowing, she began to become. No longer I am a doctor, a wife, a mother, but simply I am me. Are you on that journey too? Have you ever felt you have lived by someone else's script for too long and now don't know where to start to come back to yourself? Share a small piece of your journey in the comments. Just one line is enough. I'm returning to myself. By writing it, you are not only stepping into the journey of individuation, you are creating a space for others to find the courage to do the same. And remember, individuation is not about being better, it is about being truer. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be authentic with your joy, your sorrow, and the unanswered questions in your heart. One day you will look back and realize that all the suffering, confusion, and inner conflict were the stepping stones for being reborn in your most original version. In the next part, we will explore an essential symbol in Jungian feminine psychology. She has transcended the need for outward approval. This woman is no longer controlled by the gaze of others, imprisoned by judgment, or swept up by societal standards of beauty or morality because she has found her value within. This is true freedom. This is where inner strength becomes a light that requires no external validation. Are you ready to explore this with me? Leave if you are ready to step into the realm of spiritual liberation. She has transcended the need for outward approval. There is a kind of freedom money cannot buy and fame cannot grant. It is the freedom that comes when you walk into a room without trying to impress, without worrying what anyone thinks, without needing to prove anything, and still feel entirely whole. A woman with high spiritual power has reached this freedom. She no longer lives for the gaze of others, she lives from the light within. Carl Jung once said, "The persona is the mask we wear to adapt to society, but never forget it is just a mask." From a young age, we are taught to behave, to look nice, to be liked. Gradually, we trade authenticity for approval, losing our essence to be acknowledged. And one day we look back and realize we no longer know who we are without likes, praise, or approving eyes. But the spiritually awakened woman is different. She has moved past that dependency, not by rebellion, but by confronting it and rising above. She may have once been addicted to approval. She may have worn the right clothes, spoken the pleasant words, felt anxious when someone didn't like her. Then she began to ask herself, am I still myself or just the image others want to see? Does this approval nourish my soul? If no one were watching, would I still do this? And from that moment, she begins peeling away the layers of the mask. She accepts being misunderstood. She accepts judgment. She accepts imperfection. Not because she feels no fear, but because the pain of not living authentically is greater than the fear of rejection. Have you ever felt exhausted trying to be right, to be good, to smile when you want to cry? Have you ever noticed yourself disappearing bit by bit in the effort to please others? If so, you are not alone, and you are standing on the threshold of a major spiritual turning point, learning to live without needing permission. A woman who has transcended the need for external validation does not need to be seen to shine. She can live quietly without being invisible. She can fail without feeling worthless. She can be alone without feeling empty. Because her worth is no longer determined by others' reactions, it rests in the relationship between her and her own soul. Jung reminds us what comes from outside can be taken away. Only what comes from within is eternal. This woman does not allow herself to drift according to beauty standards or pressures to succeed like everyone else. She redefines everything according to her own values. Career appearance, love, they all matter, but they are no longer mirrors defining her. You can recognize them by this. They don't need to broadcast every moment on social media to feel alive. They can smile at criticism because they know I understand myself. That is enough. They may decline a glamorous opportunity simply because their soul says no. If you are on the journey of letting go of the need to be liked, praised, or approved, share a short line below. I am learning to live true to myself. In doing so, you are not only brave for yourself, but inspiring those still trapped in the invisible race to prove their worth. You deserve to be yourself without needing a crowd to vote. You deserve peace even if others don't understand you. You deserve freedom, not from the outside world, but from the invisible prison within. I must be someone to be loved. And when you truly release that dependency, you will feel this. A silent space opens in your heart. A peace that requires no reason. A light that needs no one else to ignite it. In the next part, we will explore the final and deepest sign. She becomes the embodiment of the ancient feminine archetype. No longer modern woman or traditional woman, but a living symbol of the cosmic mother, the goddess of destruction, the sacred lover, and the keeper of mysteries. When a woman connects with the collective unconscious, she is no longer just so-and-so. She becomes the embodiment of something beyond words. Have you ever met a woman who feels completely unique, yet compels you to listen all the way to the core? Stay tuned for the final part where darkness and light within the feminine soul merge into a living archetype. She becomes the embodiment of the ancient feminine archetype. There is a kind of woman who, when you encounter her, you cannot name the emotions stirring within you. It is neither love, admiration, nor fear, but something more sacred, as if you are standing before an ancient soul that transcends time. She does not try to be different, yet her presence silences you. When she looks at you, it feels as if you are illuminated from within, not to be judged, but to be truly seen. This is the woman who has entered the deepest layer of the spiritual journey. She becomes a living embodiment of the archetypal feminine. Carl Jung believed that within every woman exists symbolic images, vivid and ancient, beyond personality and personal experience. This is the realm of the collective unconscious, holding the spiritual memory of humanity, where feminine archetypes are not just symbols, they are real sources of power. A woman of spiritual strength does not merely understand archetypes, she becomes them. At times, she is the cosmic mother, nurturing, protective, making others feel safe simply through her presence. At other times, she is the soul lover, sensual, mysterious, yet not seductive to control, but to awaken. She becomes the silent priestess, guardian of sacred secrets, speaking little, yet every word is symbolic. And sometimes she is Kali, the goddess of destruction, breaking down old structures that no longer serve the soul, even if it brings pain. The remarkable thing is she does not choose which archetype to embody. She lets life call forth each aspect at the right moment. When love is needed, she flows like a bottomless river. When departure is required, she cuts clear like a sword. When nurturing is called for, she is the safe harbor. When challenge arises, she becomes the storm. Have you ever met a woman who made you feel you had to live more honestly, face your emotions more truthfully without her saying a word? It is because she lives with an awakened soul, and that awakened soul stirs others to awaken too. Jung called this the transformation from the personal ego to the living symbol, the self as archetype. At this stage, the woman no longer lives solely for herself. She becomes a conduit of the sacred living, in harmony with the cycles of the universe, neither resisting nor controlling. She walks without hurry because she hears the universe's heartbeat within her. She does not need to teach her life itself as the lesson. She does not need to advise her presence as the therapy. She does not need to persuade what she carries comes not from reason, but from a deeper realm, a place everyone has visited once yet has forgotten. The woman who becomes the embodiment of the ancient archetype no longer lives in fear of abandonment, judgment, or failure because she has died and been reborn countless times in her soul. She has shattered, and instead of piecing herself together as before, she allows herself to be reshaped into something higher, a fully realized soul. Have you felt this within yourself? A calling to live differently. A sense that you carry something beyond personality, something ancient stirring in your soul. If so, you are not alone. You may write in the comment, "I feel something ancient and powerful awakening within me." By naming this sacred force, you begin to awaken the archetype within yourself. This path is uncommon. You will not find it in best-selling self-help books or success seminars. It is a forgotten path waiting to be remembered. And when a woman remembers who she is, she does not need to learn feminism nor reclaim anything, because she knows she is a living symbol of something the world once trembled before, the sacred feminine. In the next and final part of the journey, we will summarize 6 subtle yet profound signs of a spiritually powerful woman, according to Jung. We will not only review these insights, we will also ask, how can you, whether man or woman, embark on a similar journey without needing to become anyone? Because the truth is, every true spiritual journey is simply the journey back to yourself. Stay with me for the conclusion, where the story ends, but the journey is just beginning. Dear soul, if you've journeyed with me this far, this is no longer just a video. This is a meeting of souls between you and me at the deepest place within each of us. A place where the mind cannot reach, but the heart recognizes instantly. You may not immediately see the signs we've spoken of, but if your soul stirs at the mention of them, it means they have always been there waiting for you to awaken. As Florence Scovel Shinn once wrote, "The soul knows before the mind understands." Awakening does not arrive like a storm. It falls like a quiet dew gently touching the soil and awakening seeds that have slept for lifetimes. You do not need to be special. You simply need to return to your true nature. You do not need to keep up with the world. You only need to move in rhythm with your soul. You do not need anyone's approval. Because as Shinn said, the inner world governs the outer world. If there is one thing to remember after this video, it is this. True spiritual power does not come from knowing more. It comes from living authentically. Daring to face the shadow you once feared. Daring to listen to the voice within rather than chasing the noise outside. Daring to accept that you are imperfect yet still deserving of unconditional love. You are not alone on this journey. Countless other souls are awakening, and they are leaving light along the path. If anything in this video has stirred you, write one honest thing in the comments. I'm listening to my soul more deeply, or I saw a part of myself in this video. Because sometimes a single line you write today can become the light for someone else lost searching for themselves. If this video has touched the depths of your